What if the real reason you haven't achieved your goals isn't a lack of talent, but a lack of daily motivation? Every day, we promise ourselves we'll start tomorrow. We wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, the perfect surge of inspiration. But what if motivation isn't something you wait for? What if it's something you build? In this video, you'll discover powerful, science-backed strategies to stay consistent, beat procrastination, rewire your brain for discipline, and create a daily system that makes success inevitable. If you're tired of starting and stopping, tired of feeling stuck, and ready to take real control of your progress, this might be the mindset shift you've been missing. I hope you find this information useful as you enjoy these clips. Let's dive right in. First, the hidden reason. You lose motivation and how to fix it. Most people believe they lose motivation because they are lazy, distracted, or not disciplined enough. But the truth is far deeper and far more dangerous. The hidden reason you lose motivation is not a lack of willpower. It's a lack of clarity and emotional connection to your goal. When your goal is vague, your brain treats it as optional, saying, "I want to be successful," or "I want to get in shape." Sounds nice, but it doesn't create urgency. Your mind doesn't see a clear picture, and if the picture isn't clear, the action won't be strong. Motivation fades because your brain cannot measure progress toward something undefined. Another powerful reason motivation disappears is emotional disconnection. If your goal is based on comparison, pressure, or guilt, like wanting success just to impress others, your energy will run out quickly. External pressure creates temporary sparks, not lasting fire. Real motivation is emotional. It is personal. It answers the question, why does this truly matter to me? There's also the problem of overwhelm. When a goal feels too big, your brain switches into avoidance mode. Instead of moving forward, you procrastinate, not because you don't care, but because your mind sees the task as a threat. Big dreams without small steps create fear, not motivation. So how do you fix this? First, get specific. Instead of, "I want to be fit," say, "I will work out for 30 minutes, 5 days a week." Instead of, "I want more money," define the exact income target and deadline. Specific goals create measurable wins, and wins build motivation. Second, reconnect emotionally. Ask yourself, what will my life look like when I achieve this? Who will I become? What pain will disappear? Visualize it daily. Feel it. The stronger the emotion, the stronger the drive. Finally, shrink the goal. Break it into small daily actions that feel almost too easy. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence fuels motivation. Motivation is not something you wait for. It is something you build through clarity, emotion, and small, consistent action. Once you understand this hidden reason, you stop blaming yourself and start taking control. Second, the 5-minute morning ritual that changes your entire day. How you start your morning determines how you live your day. Most people wake up and immediately check their phones. Notifications, messages, news, social media. Within seconds, their mind is no longer their own. Their focus is hijacked. Their energy is scattered, and before the day even begins, they are already reacting instead of leading. But what if just 5 intentional minutes could completely shift your momentum? This simple morning ritual is not complicated. It doesn't require special tools, apps, or hours of meditation. It requires intention. Minute 1. Breathe with awareness. Sit up. Take slow, deep breaths and allow your nervous system to stabilize. This tells your brain you are in control. Instead of rushing into stress mode, you begin from calm strength. Minute 2. Visualize your future self. Picture the version of you who has already achieved your goals. See how they walk, how they speak, how they think. Visualization activates the same neural pathways as real action. Your brain begins aligning with that identity. Minute 3. Define one key win for the day. Not 10 tasks, not a long, overwhelming list, just one meaningful action that moves you closer to your goal. Clarity eliminates hesitation. Minute 4. Speak one powerful affirmation, something grounded and believable, such as, "I take action even when I don't feel like it." Words shape identity. Identity shapes behavior. Minute 5. Take immediate action, even something small. Sending that email, opening the document, putting on your workout shoes. Action creates momentum, and momentum is stronger than motivation. This 5-minute ritual works because it shifts you from passive to proactive. Instead of waiting to feel ready, you create readiness. Instead of hoping for a productive day, you design one. Consistency is what transforms this from a habit into a lifestyle. Do it daily, especially on the days you don't feel like it, because those are the days that matter most. Your mornings are powerful. Protect them, direct them, master them. And you'll notice something remarkable. You're no longer chasing motivation, you're generating it. Third, how to stay consistent, even when you feel lazy. There will be days when you feel unstoppable. You wake up energized, focused, and ready to conquer your goals. But those days are not the ones that define your success. The days that truly matter are the quiet, heavy ones. When you feel lazy, tired, uninspired, and tempted to postpone everything. Consistency is not built on motivation, it is built on systems and identity. First, understand this. Feeling lazy is normal. It does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you lack ambition. Often, laziness is simply mental resistance. Your brain is wired to conserve energy and avoid discomfort. Growth requires effort, and effort feels uncomfortable. So your mind searches for easier alternatives, scrolling, resting, delaying. The key is to lower the barrier to action. Instead of telling yourself, "I must complete this entire project today," say, "I will work on it for 5 minutes." When the task feels small, your brain stops resisting. Most of the time, once you begin, momentum carries you forward. Starting is the hardest part. Reduce the starting cost. Second, separate feelings from commitments. You brush your teeth even when you don't feel like it. You show up to important appointments even when you're tired. Why? Because those actions are non-negotiable. Treat your goals the same way. When something becomes part of your identity, "I am someone who trains daily," or "I'm someone who writes every morning," you act based on who you are, not how you feel. Third, design your environment for success. Remove distractions before they test your willpower. Prepare your workout clothes the night before. Keep your workspace clean. Block distracting apps. Discipline becomes easier when temptation is harder. Finally, forgive yourself quickly. Missing one day does not destroy consistency. Quitting does. The rule is simple. Never miss twice. If you fall, recover immediately. This builds resilience. Consistency is not dramatic. It is quiet, repetitive, sometimes boring, but that is exactly why it works. When you act despite laziness, you build self-trust, and once you trust yourself, discipline becomes your default. You won't always feel ready. You won't always feel driven. But if you show up anyway, day after day, you'll discover something powerful. Success belongs to the consistent, not the motivated. Fourth, rewire your brain for daily discipline. Discipline is not a personality trait. It is not something you are born with. It is a trained pattern, a neurological pathway strengthened through repetition. If you currently struggle with discipline, it doesn't mean you are incapable. It simply means your brain has been wired for comfort instead of consistency. And the good news, what was wired can be rewired. Your brain operates on habits and rewards. Every time you choose comfort, scrolling instead of working, sleeping instead of training, your brain receives a small dopamine reward. Over time, it learns that avoidance equals pleasure. That pathway becomes stronger. Discipline, on the other hand, feels harder because its reward is delayed. To rewire your brain, you must reverse this system. First, make discipline immediately rewarding. After completing a task, celebrate it, even in small ways. Check it off visibly. Say "done" out loud. Track your streak. These micro-rewards release dopamine and teach your brain that effort leads to satisfaction. Second, reduce friction for productive behaviors. The brain resists what feels complicated. If you want to exercise, prepare your clothes in advance. If you want to write, open the document before you sleep. When the path is clear, resistance decreases. Third, use identity-based repetition. Instead of focusing only on results, focus on votes for the person you want to become. Every disciplined action is a vote. One workout is a vote for being fit. One focused hour is a vote for being productive. Repetition strengthens identity, and identity strengthens behavior. Another powerful technique is implementation intention. Decide in advance. If it is 7 a.m., I start working. No debate. No negotiation. The less you rely on decision-making in the moment, the stronger your discipline becomes. Finally, understand that discomfort is a signal of growth, not danger. When you feel resistance, remind yourself, this is the rewiring process. Neural pathways change through repetition under mild stress. That slight discomfort is proof that change is happening. Daily discipline is not about forcing yourself harshly. It's about training your brain patiently. Small, consistent actions reshape your neural patterns. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes automatic, and one day you'll realize something remarkable. You no longer fight yourself to take action. Discipline becomes your default setting. Fifth, the science of small wins and big results. We often believe that massive success requires massive action. Big goals, big risks, big breakthroughs. But science tells a different story. Real, lasting success is built on something much smaller, consistent, measurable wins. Your brain is wired to seek progress. When you complete a task, even a small one, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical associated with motivation and reward. This creates a positive feedback loop. You act, you feel good, and your brain wants to repeat the behavior. Small wins are not insignificant. They are neurological reinforcements. The problem is that most people ignore small progress because it feels too minor. They wait for dramatic results before they feel proud. But big results are simply the accumulation of tiny victories stacked over time. Consider this. Improving just 1% each day seems meaningless, but mathematically, small improvements compound. Progress builds on itself, momentum grows, confidence expands. What once felt impossible becomes natural because you've gradually adapted to higher standards. Small wins also reduce fear. Large goals trigger overwhelm because the brain struggles to process uncertainty. Breaking goals into manageable steps lowers psychological resistance. When the next step feels achievable, you move forward instead of freezing. Another powerful benefit of small wins is identity reinforcement. Each completed action proves to your brain that you are capable. You begin to see yourself as someone who finishes tasks, someone who follows through. And identity drives behavior far more than temporary motivation ever could. This is why daily habits outperform sudden bursts of effort. A single, intense week of work cannot compete with months of steady progress. Consistency builds skill. Skill builds confidence. Confidence fuels bigger action. If you want big results, shift your focus. Stop chasing dramatic transformation. Start chasing daily improvement. Ask yourself each morning, what is one small win I can secure today? Over time, those small wins multiply. They compound silently. And one day, you look back and realize something powerful. What seemed small was actually the foundation of something extraordinary. Big results are never born from one heroic moment. They are built from hundreds of quiet victories no one else sees. Sixth, why waiting for motivation is a mistake. One of the biggest lies we believe is this: I'll start when I feel motivated. It sounds reasonable. It feels logical. After all, motivation gives you energy, excitement, and momentum. But here's the truth. If you wait for motivation, you will wait far longer than you think. Motivation is emotional, and emotions are unstable. Some days you wake up inspired. Other days you feel drained for no clear reason. If your productivity depends on your mood, your progress will always be inconsistent. You become a passenger of your feelings instead of the driver of your actions. The most successful people understand something different. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you take the first small step, even reluctantly, something shifts. Progress generates clarity. Movement builds energy. Your brain releases dopamine in response to forward motion. What felt heavy begins to feel manageable. And suddenly, motivation appears. But only because you started. Waiting, on the other hand, strengthens resistance. The longer you delay, the bigger the task feels. Your mind magnifies difficulty. Doubt grows. Procrastination becomes a habit. And habits, once formed, are harder to break than to avoid in the first place. There is also a psychological trap in waiting. You begin to romanticize the perfect moment. You imagine starting when you have more time, more focus, more confidence. But perfect conditions rarely exist, and even if they did, discipline built in comfort does not survive discomfort. Instead of asking, "Do I feel motivated?" ask, "What is the smallest action I can take right now?" Lower the standard for starting. Open the document. Put on your shoes. Write one sentence. Make one call. Momentum does not require enthusiasm. It requires movement. Motivation is a reward, not a prerequisite. The people who achieve their goals are not always motivated. They are consistent. They act whether they feel inspired or not. And over time, this creates something stronger than motivation: self-trust. Stop waiting for the feeling. Start with the action. Because once you move, even slightly, motivation will often follow. Seventh, the power of visualizing your future self. Most people think about their goals in terms of outcomes: more money, better health, greater success. But high performers think differently. They focus on identity. They imagine the person they must become in order to achieve those outcomes. And this is where visualization becomes powerful. Your brain does not clearly distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. When you visualize your future self in detail, how you think, how you move, how you respond to challenges, you activate many of the same neural pathways involved in actual performance. In other words, you begin training your brain before the action even happens. But visualization is not just daydreaming about success. It's about identity alignment. Close your eyes and imagine the version of you who has already achieved your goal. How disciplined are they? How do they handle distractions? What do they do when they feel tired? What standards do they refuse to lower? The clearer this image becomes, the easier decisions in the present become. Because every day, you are casting votes for one of two identities: your current self or your future self. When you skip the workout, you reinforce the old identity. When you show up despite resistance, you strengthen the future one. Visualization helps you emotionally connect to that upgraded version of yourself. And emotional connection drives behavior more than logic ever could. There's also a powerful psychological effect called self-consistency. Humans naturally act in ways that align with how they see themselves. If you repeatedly visualize yourself as disciplined, focused, and resilient, your brain begins to close the gap between imagination and reality. You start behaving in ways that confirm that identity. To make this practice effective, be specific. Don't just see success. See the daily habits behind it. Picture the early mornings, the difficult conversations, the focused work sessions, the calm confidence under pressure. The more realistic the image, the stronger its influence. Spend just a few minutes each day connecting with your future self. Let that version guide your choices. Over time, the gap between who you are and who you want to become begins to shrink. And one day, you'll realize something powerful. You're no longer visualizing your future self. You're living as them. 8th, how to beat procrastination. Once and for all. Procrastination is not a time management problem, it is an emotional management problem. Most people believe they procrastinate because they are lazy or undisciplined. But in reality, procrastination is a coping mechanism. When a task feels overwhelming, boring, difficult, or uncertain, your brain looks for immediate relief. And the fastest relief usually comes in the form of distraction. Scrolling, watching videos, cleaning unnecessarily, or convincing yourself you'll start later. The issue isn't the task, it's the discomfort attached to it. To beat procrastination once and for all, you must learn to manage that discomfort instead of escaping it. First, shrink the task. A large project triggers resistance because your brain sees it as a threat. Break it down into the smallest possible action. Not finish the report. Instead, write the first paragraph. Not study for 3 hours. Instead, review for 10 minutes. When the step feels manageable, your resistance decreases dramatically. Second, use the 2-minute rule. Commit to working on the task for just 2 minutes. That's it. The goal is not completion. It's initiation. Starting reduces psychological friction, and once you begin, momentum often carries you further than planned. Third, eliminate choice at the moment of action. Decision fatigue fuels procrastination. Decide in advance when and where you'll complete important tasks. For example, at 6 p.m., I sit at my desk and work for 30 minutes. No debate, no emotional negotiation, just execution. Another powerful strategy is to focus on progress, not perfection. Perfectionism is procrastination disguised as high standards. When you wait for the perfect idea, perfect mood, or perfect timing, you delay action. Progress, even imperfect progress, builds clarity and confidence. Most importantly, learn to tolerate discomfort. Procrastination loses its power when you realize that the discomfort of starting is temporary. But the stress of delaying lingers far longer. Action creates relief. Avoidance creates anxiety. If you truly want to overcome procrastination, stop asking how to feel motivated. Start asking how to act despite discomfort. Because the habit of starting, even when it's hard, is what separates dreamers from achievers. And once you master that habit, procrastination no longer controls your time. You do. 9th, turning setbacks into fuel for success. Setbacks are inevitable. No matter how disciplined, focused, or motivated you are, there will be moments when things don't go as planned. You will fail. You will be rejected. You will lose opportunities. The difference between those who succeed and those who quit is not the absence of setbacks. It is the interpretation of them. Most people see failure as proof of inadequacy. They internalize it. I'm not good enough. Maybe this isn't for me. That interpretation drains energy and weakens confidence. But high achievers see setbacks differently. They see them as feedback. A setback is data. It reveals what didn't work. It exposes weaknesses. It highlights gaps in skill, strategy, or preparation. When you detach your identity from the outcome, you gain something powerful: objectivity. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" This shift changes everything. There is also a psychological advantage in embracing setbacks. When you survive failure, you build resilience. You prove to yourself that discomfort, embarrassment, or disappointment are not fatal. Each time you recover, your tolerance for risk increases, and growth always lives on the other side of risk. Another key is speed of recovery. The longer you dwell on a setback, the heavier it feels. Reflect briefly, extract the lesson, adjust your strategy, and move forward quickly. Momentum is easier to maintain than to rebuild. It's also important to redefine failure. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Every skill is built through repeated mistakes. Every breakthrough is preceded by attempts that didn't work. The only true failure is quitting entirely. When you begin to view setbacks as fuel, you transform frustration into determination. Rejection sharpens your preparation. Mistakes refine your strategy. Loss strengthens your resolve. Instead of fearing setbacks, expect them. Prepare for them. Normalize them. When they arrive, meet them with curiosity rather than panic. Because every setback carries hidden power. It can either confirm your doubts or strengthen your commitment. The choice is yours. And when you choose growth, even your worst days become stepping stones toward your greatest achievements. 10th, creating a daily system that makes success inevitable. Most people focus on goals. They obsess over outcomes, the promotion, the income level, the physical transformation. But goals alone don't create success. Systems do. A goal tells you where you want to go. A system determines whether you actually get there. The problem with relying only on goals is that they are future-based. They depend on motivation, inspiration, and bursts of effort. But motivation fluctuates. Energy changes. Life becomes unpredictable. When your success depends on how you feel, progress becomes unstable. A daily system removes emotion from the equation. A system is a set of repeatable actions performed consistently, regardless of mood. It answers a simple question: what do I do every day that guarantees progress? Instead of saying, "I want to write a book," your system becomes, "I write 500 words every morning at 7 a.m. Instead of, "I want to get fit," your system becomes, "I train 4 days a week after work." The focus shifts from dreaming about the result to executing the routine. Systems also reduce decision fatigue. When your actions are pre-decided, you don't waste energy debating. The routine becomes automatic, and automation is powerful. What you repeat daily eventually becomes part of your identity. Another critical element of a strong system is tracking. What gets measured gets improved. Track your habits, track your streaks, track your progress. Visible progress reinforces commitment and builds momentum. Flexibility is important too. A good system is structured but adaptable. If you miss a session, adjust quickly. The rule is simple: return to the system immediately. Never allow one missed day to become a pattern. When you operate through systems, success stops being a dramatic event and becomes a natural outcome. Just like saving money consistently leads to wealth over time, consistent daily effort leads to achievement. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Design your days with intention. Protect your routines. Commit to the process, even when results are invisible. Because when the system is strong, success is no longer a possibility. It becomes inevitable.